Imagine the mother-in-law of Simon Peter is in his house. There's somebody who told me a very funny story that he asked me, Father, do you know why Peter denied Jesus 3 times? I said, no, I have no idea. I think maybe because he was afraid. He said, no. It's because Jesus healed Peter's mother-in-law. Peter did not want his mother-in-law to be healed, and Peter was like, why did you raise up my mother-in-law? Because mother-in-law and people and their mother-in-law is always a problem, or sister-in-law and all that. And Peter never wanted Jesus to do that, but Jesus did it because he was there to heal, to cast out demons, and that is why Peter denied Jesus 3 times. I think it was a very funny story, but it was just to pass a point across about the relationship between brother-in-laws and sisters-in-laws and mothers-in-laws and all that. It's never a good time to be. But now in the gospel of today, we find Jesus entering Capernaum, and is so much accepted by the people. A contradiction of what has happened already when Jesus went to Nazareth in his own hometown and is being rejected. And he goes to Capernaum and is so much accepted. They want him to stay, they want to listen to him. And then he goes out, he casts out the demon from the mother-in-law of Peter. And then many people brought the sick to him. And then again, he cast out more and more demons. And there's really liberation. And this is what he had talked about at the beginning of this chapter. The Spirit of the Lord has been given to me, and God has anointed me to bring good news to the poor, to set the captives free, to open the eyes of the blind, to declare a year of favor. This is what he started to act out. But something amazing is that, this is the example that he walks out in front of Simon Peter, because this happens before he actually asks Simon Peter to follow him. Okay, Jesus calls Simon Peter in chapter 5. We are still in chapter 4. And this is what he acts out in front of Simon Peter. Because later on, he's going to send the apostles, and he gives them authority to heal and to cast out demons. To heal and to cast out demons. The same thing he has done. And remember, when he sends his apostles, and later on he sends the 72, and he told them, go out, and he gave them that authority to heal, the authority to cast out demons. When they came back, they gave a report of what had happened, and it said, in your name, we have been able to do all these things. So they were so conscious that it was Jesus who was sending them, and they had to report back to him. We are so conscious of that. And I think this is something that all of us, especially as pastors, must be conscious of at all times. This is what St. Paul talks about in his first letter to the Corinthians, chapter 3, that we read this morning, where he said, no, I think you are not really mature in faith because you are clinging to the servants, you are clinging to the pastors, and you forget about the Lord of the harvest. Because he said there are some people who are saying, I am for Paul, and others are saying, I am for Apollos. And St. Paul says, who is Paul? Who is Apollos? These are just servants. Paul plants and Apollos waters, but the person who makes the plants to grow is God. And therefore, the important thing is not Paul, the important thing is not Apollos, but the Lord of the harvest. The important thing is not the apostles going out and preaching. The important thing is not Father Anish and Father Tony in the Philippines preaching and doing all the things of God. The important thing is Jesus Christ, who is the center of our mission. And the lack of faith comes when people begin to select, I want this one and not this one. I feel better off in this mass, and I don't feel okay in this mass. The real problem is not the pastor. The real problem is your faith. It's not about the person who is standing there. I remember there was a time I was called for anointing of the sick in one of the hospitals here. I went very fast with a bike. Thank God we have a bike here so you can beat traffic, especially when there is anointing of the sick and somebody is in danger of death. And I went so fast and I arrived there. When I arrived, the people were not really around. They had gone to do some shopping. And then eventually they came, and then we went to the room where the sick person was. And before I started the rite of the anointing of the sick, then I realized the face was shiny. Now the face was shiny. Then I asked this lady, "What did somebody else anoint this person?" And he said, "Yes, there is a priest who just came to anoint." I said, "Oh, why did you call me then?" And he said, "No, we want your own anointing." I said, "This is completely wrong. No, to feel that the anointing of another priest does not work, and the anointing of Father Tony is going to work better than the one of the other priests." And I said, "No, I cannot do this. No? Otherwise, the attention will be mine. I'm telling you, if I do that, it means I am saying, I'm agreeing with you that the anointing of that other priest did not work, and mine can work better." And I think this is the kind of impression we have, that there are some masses that are more holy than others. There are some masses that are more sacramental than others. The body that is consecrated in this mass is different from the other one that is consecrated. And even you find at times Christians selecting the priest they are going to receive Holy Communion from. I have seen that happen many times, like go to this line and not to that other one, because there is this priest who is sharing communion here and not the other one. And the worst goes for Eucharistic ministers. And the Eucharistic ministers are sharing communion. There are people who would never receive from them. They will focus on the priest and all that. And I think this is what we should have in mind all the time. What is the focus of everything? Is it about Paul? Is it about Apollos? No. It is about Jesus, who has given us the example. He has given us authority to go out and heal and cast out demons. But then when we do that, the honor and the glory is not ours. It's not by our power. It's not by our might. Actually, we do that in His name. And therefore, Paul says, you become immature Christians if you depend on the servants, if you depend only on the servants. I want Sister Femi, I don't want Sister Cha. I want this one, not this one. And no, these are all instruments of God. It says, Paul planted and Apollos waters. It is true we might not have the same talents. It is true we might not have the same charisms, but we are all, one is planting and other one would water. But the person who causes the growth is not any of the servants, it is God Himself. And this is the problem that Paul is facing with the Corinthians, that they are holding on to Paul and others are holding on to Apollos. And Paul said, no, that must not happen. We must hold on to Christ and Christ alone. So if there is a priest coming for anointing, we must remember that that person is representing Christ. There is no one who is representing Christ more than the other. Okay? All of them are all the same. The anointing of one priest is the same anointing that the other priest could give. If a priest celebrates Mass, the same words of consecration that consecrates, that turns the body and blood into the bread and wine into the body and blood of Christ. Another priest comes, the same words are used, and the same bread and wine is changed into the body and blood of Christ. It does not make any difference for one priest to another, even if that priest is not worthy. Even if the priest is not worthy, even if the priest is suplado or is bad or whatever thing you can call anything, but when it comes to the sacraments, the Mass is still valid in spite of the sinfulness of the priest, in spite of what he's done. God still communicates to His people. God can walk straight on crooked lines. Have you heard about that? God can walk straight on crooked lines. So my dear brothers and sisters, we must begin therefore to refocus our attention not on the ministers, not on Father Tony, not on Father Anish or Father that or Father that. No. We must refocus our attention, take them away from them, and remember, when we stand here celebrating the Eucharist, we represent Christ. In persona Christi, we are standing here in the person of Jesus Christ. And that happens for all the sacraments. Okay? If your child is baptized by this priest, it does not make any difference from this other priest, and it goes for all the sacraments. And so, my dear brothers and sisters, like I said, let us begin to refocus on Jesus Christ himself, who is the Lord of the harvest.